Good afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for joining me on the Give and Go podcast, post school edition. Very hot out this week, finally cooling down right before I go away on vacation. I have a very special interview, a little different than just talking about sports. I have twins from Point Beach, just graduated the past week. Morgan and Sydney Zylinski from Point Beach and Mass, right? Mass is Monmouth.
Mates
And
is Ocean
Mates
County.
is Ocean County, right? Okay. I know. I got them confused because Gia Passat went to Mates. Yeah, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess let's start there. What was your interest to go to Mates?
I decided to go to Mates just because I wanted a more rigorous curriculum. I always achieved in middle school, I guess you could say. And I was really obsessed with like learning about our local environment in the Barnegat Bay, especially. So I thought Mates would be a good route to like explore more marine science and our local ecosystems as well, while taking higher level courses.
I think that my sister wanted to go to Mass for like a microsecond because she wanted to go marine biology. That was right, but then she decided not to. Um, all right, I just wanted to get that question out of the way. We're going to talk, sports, both of you multi-sport athletes, soccer, softball. Did you, any other sports when you were growing up?
We did swimming in the winter all 4 years too in high
Oh, so
school.
at Point Beach
For
you did.
Swan, yeah, for Swan.
Okay, I checked basketball. I didn't see your names on basketball.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe they took the winter off. Okay, so swimming. So how old were you two when you got into swimming?
Very young, probably like 5 or 6 is when we started. Same thing with soccer though. Right at that young age when you could sign up, our parents just put us in it and they're like, okay, you're gonna do both for a while. So
Okay, do you two have a favorite sport, or all three kind of equal?
it's hard. For me it was soccer for a while just because like I love the team. And then, kind of throughout high school, softball also became a sport I loved because it kind of just became, more this like different aspect from soccer because I was so used to playing soccer all the time with travel soccer too. And softball kind of became this like relaxing, like fun environment. So I couldn't put a number one to both of them. I just love them. And I mean, swimming, I could maybe rank swimming. Swimming's a tough sport. So maybe I could rank swimming below them, but definitely soccer and softball are up there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say the same. I love like the environment with like both soccer and softball. I mean, team sports in high school is so different than club too.
Hmm.
But I've always loved swimming, even after like finishing club after middle school. It's very different from like soccer and softball, in all
Yeah,
aspects. So I loved swimming as well. Yeah.
it's very rarely do you see soccer players play softball though.
Yeah.
It's usually a little too slow for for for
Yeah.
for soccer players. But I started covering softball last year, and I'm glad they asked me because I like it more than basketball now. Soccer's always going to be my number one, my favorite sport, but I actually very enjoyed getting to know everybody on the softball field. So I could see, and there's so much passion on the softball field. I
Yeah.
like you see a little on soccer, but softball like I do a reaction, if somebody hits a home run like you girls are passionate on that softball field.
Yeah, it gets very hype in the dugout, I'll say.
Yes, that my very first game last year covering, and when as soon as the first pitch and I heard the dugout, yeah, their chants and stuff. I'm like, does this go? I asked them, does this go on all game? And they're like, every inning.
Yeah.
So I mean, you girls you gotta have a lot of energy to go do that the whole entire game. So I want to talk soccer a little bit. You two had a great career at Point Beach. Is it two sectional titles or three sectional?
Three.
There was three in a row. Couple trips to the group finals too. Just talk about the experience. Not a lot of high school kids get the experience. I know it didn't come out, the group finals didn't come out the way you would want, but not a lot of kids get that experience playing in a state championship game. Just talk about that experience. Was it 2 years in a row or 3 years in a row for the state too?
It was
Two
sophomore and junior year we went to the
was the
group finals,
yes.
and then sophomore, junior, and senior year was the sectional final.
Okay. So just talk your sophomore and junior year, just talk about the experience. First of all, it's a long bus ride up to Franklin because that's where it was both years, right? Just talk about the experience of doing that and especially come from a small school like, in small town like Point Pleasant is. and what it meant to the team and the community just playing in that big game.
Really before we went our first time our sophomore year climbing all the way up there, it was really only baseball that really achieved anything like that, and I'm pretty sure they only reached the sectional. No, they hadn't reached the Group One finals yet. And it was really the first year, sophomore year. It was kind of like we were such on this high from beating Shore and
Yeah.
winning that final. We were like, it's we fail now, it's whatever because we never gotten this far. So we kind of just kept riding that, and then we beat Audubon in that one game, I'm pretty sure. And then
Yes.
trying kind of getting to the finals was like huge for our community. I just remember everyone thanking us, everyone reaching out, everyone congratulating us, the whole bus ride. And even though that game did not turn out very great, it was still there was nothing to be disappointed about, even reaching that final. And then, second year comes around and, everyone's like, oh, how are they going to do this year? And then you win the sectional final again. And then, that sectional final was insane. That was probably the most exciting game of my career.
That
But
that was
yeah,
that was a great game to be at.
yeah, and then you reach the final again. It's kind of like what can I say now? The small school kind of achieving that. Although once again, it did not turn out how we wanted. Mountain Lake's just a powerhouse, but it's the community and everything.
Yeah, I think sophomore year we were at Keene actually for the Group One.
Yes, I didn't go to your sophomore year. I didn't go. I didn't
Yeah.
go to your. I was at your juniors.
Yeah, and I remember like after winning and being able to go to the finals, everyone starts talking. It's like, oh, it's just like any other game. Like you can't get in your own head. Like all that stuff about locking in and keeping the crowd out of it. But like you get there and you walk into the field and the big screens are going off and like the music is blaring and you just can't keep like that out of your head. So the atmosphere, it does change things a lot, especially for our small little school. I'm sure our student section only filled like 1/8 of the bleachers. So, but it was a great experience. I mean, even just being there and, after the fact of losing, it's like, we made it and, that's all you can do, just leave it all out there on the field. So both years, seeing Mountain Lakes again, our junior year, there's a little piece of that too, like carrying it over, like we got them this year. And, knowing those players you're going to be seeing again, it's a lot to think about as well. So some mind games there too with heading to the finals.
What was Coach Curtis's message to you girls? You're taking the bus ride up there the first time when you were sophomores.
I think for him, that might have been one of his first Group One finals too. So any piece of advice he had was new to him, but it was kind of just like, give it your all is all I can remember him saying. He wouldn't want anything different. He loved that team. He's
Yeah.
loved to coach all of my 4 years there. He had so much passion for the game. So he really was just like, no matter what, they're proud of us. So he was just give it your all.
Play your own game.
Yeah. And you brought up the Shore games. How big was it? Your sophomore year, you finally got them, and what was the excitement like after that?
I just remember, I think it was Bailey that game too. That game my junior year, were both of those tying games. I remember Bailey those first 5 minutes into that game. She's going down to the corner. She's kind of in line with the goalie up on that end line, and I'm like, what is she gonna do? She's beast all year, beast all of the years I played with her, and she just hits it and it just wraps into the goal, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, we've never scored against Shore like this before. In my last year, we did not. We lost 3-0 to them. I'm pretty sure. And then I was like, we're gonna win this game. I'm like, she put that in, proved something. I mean, that game, we both sides were fouling like crazy. I remember red cards getting handed out like nothing at the end of the game. But I just remember that feeling. I'm like, I knew we were gonna win with Bailey up there and our whole squad. We're so into it.
I thought your junior year, it definitely started chippy on because she ran into the goalie right early and
Yeah.
she got yellow. I think their star player aggressive got a yellow quick, like first 2 minutes, and then
Yes, I think she ran to our keeper and knocked
yes,
her over pretty good.
yes, and then a couple minutes later she pulled down a defender. And I like to me like and I'm there neutral. I don't root for anybody. I just want And I thought that was most games that would be a red card, but and you had a veteran ref that game, does mostly boys games that game, and I guess he knew the magnitude, and it did calm down a little bit after that, but it definitely those first 10 minutes, I'm like, this better, I don't like to see. I want to see soccer, but
Yeah.
but rivalry, they were a little angry from the year before, you ended their run, so. But just talk about that type of atmosphere, especially junior, back and forth, and then going overtime, and I loved it. To me, that was the best game of the year.
Yeah, I feel like in those moments sometimes you just like black out because you're just like focusing on the game, and then after the fact, it's like, oh, we won. But it's easy for people to get like caught up in the game, sort of like lose their cool a little bit. I know you're talking about the refs, like I'm sure we had some pretty chippy moments in that game too. So we like it when the refs play, both ways. But yeah, it's just like you need some moments in the game, either like on the sidelines or like halftime, to just like take a deep breath and like focus back at soccer. Just because you get so caught up in like fouling and running everywhere. Like I just remember just like running all over the field. And everyone on our team was just running everywhere, trying to score, trying to keep up with the tie, trying not to fall back down again. I mean, just those back-to-back games are very stressful than most games. Definitely.
Yeah, and I appreciate Shore for their hard fought rivalry for my past 4 years. I mean, I wouldn't have won any other way. Like they were such a tough team and such. Honestly, I'm so grateful that I played against them because we got those moments. And I remember it was tied. It was when we were going to overtime, and we're all just sitting there. We're freaking out. I'm freaking out, and I just remember our captains, Lily. She was just such a strong force on our team that year, and I just remember her coming to me and being like, "Calm down," like all to our back line. Me, Shelby, she was just like, "Calm down, like we got this. We're coming back. We got the momentum," and like that's what we really need in that moment. We need someone to step up and be like, "Listen." Then, of course, 2 minutes into overtime or whatever, Bailey puts that one in. But that's what we really needed. I think that's what really put it together that year, was having those strong captains being like, we got this. We had a rough beginning of the game, but we came back and now it's our time. So I think that was really what put it together.
Now, Sydney, your goal tied it, right? With a couple minutes left at 3. It tied it at 3.
Yes. Yeah, it was off of Katie's cross, I think.
Yes. Yeah, that was I actually funny. With 5 minutes left, I usually try to go to the side that's winning to, to videotape them running onto the field. And I made my way to the shore side. And Rosa was on that side with me too. And then all of a sudden the goal, and I was like, I felt you girls definitely had the momentum. I mean, you had them pinned for a few minutes before the equalizer. And I was like, oh, I'm not going all, and then scored. And then I think you were going the other way for overtime, and I was like, oh, I'm not walking all the way down. I'll stay here. I don't want to change anything. Because sometimes I do, I lean to the homeschool a little bit more. So I was like, let me just stay right here. And I think I was a little upset with like the rough play beginning too. So I might have started rooting for Point Beach, but just playing in that atmosphere, it has to be great, and you had a pretty good student section, I believe, that game too.
I think a couple of them walked out when I think we were down 3-1 at halftime. Walked out. I just remember my good friend staying there, and then my one friend, you might know Aaron. You probably know Aaron Fronheim.
Yep, Aaron.
She was talking to me after the game. She was like, everyone was leaving. I was like, guys, like, have faith, like, and she was there the whole game. She was screaming her head off, but like, now it was just great to have those like people there supporting you. But then all of our parents stayed and they were going crazy. It was awesome.
Yeah, especially on our small football field. I mean, if they're on the edge of those bleachers, I mean, it's great just having them like in the background noise, knowing they're supporting you.
Yeah, that atmosphere is definitely so much better when you're playing on the football field than that backfield by the baseball field. I had another question. I'll see if it comes back up, but let me ask. I like to ask, what is something, you two seniors graduate, something you hope that you're able to pass down to the underclassmen that they could carry, through their Point Beach years?
Keep the beach pride with you. I mean, small school, nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, look what we've done in our past 4 years. Anybody can do it. Any of the teams, baseball, soccer, anybody can go out there and have a great run. So just not to lose faith in our small program. And really, if you keep that pride with you and knowing that you're coming from a small school, but you can tough it to any team. I mean, we had so many close games this past fall with all those big Group 5, Group 4 schools, and you really try to say, hey, like, we might be, only have 200 kids in our school system, but we can definitely put up a good fight. So I feel like just keeping that pride there gives you enough motivation to really beat some teams and show them what you're made of.
I'd say Sydney and I too on like most of our teams. We're like the mascots. Even though I go to mates, like I still have like great like beach pride. Like we loved going to like all the football, like volleyball games. There's like pictures of us like standing up in the crowd, like cheering on Aaron or whatever. So like we just love having like that small school spirit. Especially when we win these big games against Shore, or Southern Regional, or Mattawan.
You want other players to come out and support you, so you got to go and support them. So even from volleyball to boys soccer to football, like if we go, they end up coming too. So it's really just keeping that support within the community.
And that that's great. Now volleyball had a deep run, didn't they? The girls didn't they have a successful?
They might have made it. I think they might have made it to sectional finals here, sectional final, sectional semifinal. But they had a couple good runs these past 3 years. They made it to the final a couple of years.
I remember what it was. I don't know if it was your freshman year or sophomore year, the Trinity Hall game, which was similar to the Shore game, where and it was a night game, and the goals just kept back and forth, back and forth. And then I think you girls tied it with like a minute. And I know people were complaining because they thought the ref added time on the clock and stuff like that. But that was such a fun game to be. I think it ended in a tie. If I remember 4-4, I think it ended 4-4.
Maybe. I remember we had that one like St. Rose game, and like our whole student section got kicked out, being too loud. I guess.
Yeah. When was that? What year?
Either last year, not this year, like last volleyball season, or like sophomore or junior year. I don't know, like the whole school.
Yeah. It was like barely into the third set, and we're all. It's one of those days where it's a late game, so football players come out to practice. Soccer, we all try to make it over. Boys soccer, so it's one of the really packed games because our tiny gym inside is very small, and we're just screaming. And I remember our athletic director at the time comes over, and she's like, "Out, all of you!" So we're all walking out. We're like standing behind the girls walking out. We're like screaming because like sometimes in a small gym like that, people are just yelling. It just doesn't go. But they did win that game. But I just remember all of our volleyball girls being like, "Oh, come on," because we're screaming our heads off. But that was really moments like that really shows you what we are.
I know St. Rose used to be the big rival for soccer too, and then the divisions, and then they kind of fell off the planet as far as the talent, and you girls obviously took off. Because I was at a couple of those games, soccer games, and it was
freshman year was tough against them. They were our division rivals. Definitely.
So your freshman was the last year.
They had some.
Was that Kavanaugh? Was Kavanaugh on the team that year, or did she already stop playing? I think Maggie, the older one.
I think she stopped playing at that point.
They had some forward who was
she was committed really D1. I forget her name now, but then they have Molly Cullen too. They were very good.
Molly had a really good year this year. All right, talked enough about what I really want to talk about. You very rarely see this. Both of you committed, into our military branches. Cindy, you're going into the Coast Guard Academy. Morgan, you're going into, West Point. What made you girls choose, because that's dedication. I was actually talking to somebody at work today that I was interviewing you too, because his son is in the Special Forces. And, I was saying, both of you went through the academies, and he said, how impressive that was. But what made you to, go that direction?
For me personally, I feel like now people hear about the Coast Guard Academy, and my brother is going to be a senior there this upcoming year. And ever since he got into it, and I remember when I was a freshman or going to sophomore year, he was going to his freshman year there. And I remember just visiting the campus, and I was like, wow. And then learning more about the mission. And really these past 4 years, it's really their mission about giving back to the community and helping others is what really inspired me. Having grown through a great community, Lavalette, we worked as lifeguards, then up at Point was see a small community and how close they are. It made me realize that I want to spend my time in the future giving back and helping others and really serving my country since it's given me such great opportunities in life that I want to give back to something greater. And so I really just got into the process, and then I committed. So it was really, and my brother has been a huge help throughout the whole process, but really the mission about giving back really inspired me. And of course, they're great academic programs.
Okay.
Yeah, mine falls along similar lines. I've always loved like helping others, helping my community, whether it's through like school organizations or lifeguarding, like she said. I just always felt like a calling to public service. And I sort of was unsure about what I wanted to do with my future, like what path, what job would help me like be within like that service, like just being ingrained within like helping others. And then I found out more about, West Point and like military academies through my brother and, their mission, just like giving back to the country, serving with like honor and integrity. That's just something that really resonated within me. And I decided to like take that shot and pursue it. And, I'm very grateful to have been accepted, and hopefully I can, spend my years past the academy, like leading within this service and leading this mission to help others.
Now, you both said you did lifeguard. How old were you when you started lifeguarding?
15?
15.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any big rescues?
I remember nothing huge, because I mean the ocean has gotten very rough in these past couple of years. But I remember it was one of my first times on stand after I turned 16. It's 16 is when you're allowed to work at the ocean up here. And I just remember sitting on stand. It was a busy day, it was a beautiful day, but the waves were getting bigger, and this kid just got swept up by a huge wave, and I guess couldn't really breathe, got water in his lungs, was kind of disfigured, and people were waving out. And I'm a young little 16-year-old, and like, one of my first times on stand, it was like one of my first weeks, and they're waving out, and I remember my senior guards being like, go, go. So I run out there, grab my torp, get out to the kid. It's adrenaline. I'm pumping. I'm like going. I'm just looking for the kid. And I grab him and bring him in. And then that just really shows you, that kind of leads you in life. It's moments like those, like what you want to do. And that's also lifeguarding within my community also showed me like how I want to go and help others like that. But just a moment like that. I mean, no huge rescues. We've had some huge rescues up here, but nothing that we've been involved in. But small moments like those really show
That's
you.
big though. Now you say you girls got an older brother. How did he help you in the process? If I'm sure, first of all, just the recruiting process alone for college is difficult, but going into the academies, even it's a lot to think about. How did he help you both in the even though you're going to West Point? I'm sure did you two ask any questions to him or anything like that?
Yeah, ever since I got interested, he's kind of known the whole time since he's been there, because we've always talked about it. He asks, oh, like, what do you think about college? Or, it's always been, like, I've never had a moment where I haven't been thinking about the Coast Guard Academy, but he was a huge help, because seeing him go through it and the whole process kind of inspired me, like, oh, I could do this. Like, it's very difficult, but having someone so close to you like that going through it, you're like, you know what, like, it's not impossible, and you never know. A lot of people don't know a lot about the military academy, so having him here, I text him all the time. I'm like, oh, what do I do about this? So, how do I do this? And he's been a huge help the whole time.
Yeah, and even though like West Point and Coast Guard, like their school year and everything else is a little different, their overall structure is really similar.
Yeah.
So like, of course, hearing Luke's stories from what he does at the academy, what he does during his summers. It was like pretty inspiring and motivational, seeing like my own brother go through this and, go through this service and, graduate next year. It was like truly inspiring, and it really helped me like sort of set my path onto West Point.
Kid from St. Rose went to Coast Guard Academy.
Yeah, Luke Farrell.
Yeah, Luke Bryn's brother.
Yes.
I'm close with the fight. I think I would have remembered the last name. So, but yeah, and I didn't pick his brain. I asked his dad, what made him, and same thing, he knew when he was younger, that he wanted to give back, and similar to the things you said. So, do you know what kind of field? Do you know what field you want to like pursue in the academy, like study?
I'm planning on studying environmental engineering and geospatial information science. Hopefully dual major there. So, either like I'm not too sure about like branch yet,
Mm,
because that's your last year, when you're first class. So I'm either thinking I would end up branching like engineering, and working with that active duty, or perhaps like an intelligence branch in using geospatial information science. They use like satellite imagery for like field
okay.
mapping and
That
military
was gonna be my
movement.
next question.
Yes.
What is that? Okay.
Yeah, I took a course about it at Mates, and so the military uses like its same like structure and like
Mhm.
applications within like their own military objectives. So
Okay.
hopefully, maybe branching into some intelligence branch using that.
Excellent.
Yeah, at Coast Guard Academy came out with this new academic focus a while ago. It's called cyber systems, but it works in the field of cybersecurity. And I took a couple of computer science classes at Beach, and I kind of always been interested in it. One of my really good friends, her father worked in the cybersecurity branch, and I remember listening to him talk about it. I was like, I've always enjoyed working with technology when I was younger, and so I was like, oh, this could be something that I would like. And then when I started looking at the Coast Guard Academy, I'm like, wow, they have this cyber systems major, which is, be super cool because I'm kind of doing what I wanted to do, like major in cybersecurity, but also still be helping others. And then, so hopefully I get through that throughout my 4 years. And then when I graduate, I could go join, they have sectors in the Coast Guard where they work with the cybersecurity and the intelligence. Or you could always work on a boat or go to flight school after graduation. So there's a bunch of options. Your major doesn't really set on where you're going.
Yeah.
There's kids that major in government that go to flight school, or there's kids that major in cyber systems and go work on a boat for the next 30 years. So it really depends what you feel after those 4 years. But I definitely could see myself in the future working in the field of cybersecurity.
How big is it that high schools, you brought up the computer, they got the computer programming. Now, when I was in school, you had science, you had biology, you had math. And I know, you got business classes now in some of these high schools, and I know Mass one has a couple special programs. How much an advantage is that for, kids in high school that you could try it in high school, see if you like it, if you want to pursue it? Because like I said, when I was in school, I think journalism was the most unique thing we had in school, but how, help you point in the right direction that you might want to go for your future.
I think it's a great opportunity. Well, for my example at Mates, Geospatial Information Science, they call it GIS. It was such a unique course, and it's like one of the only high schools in New Jersey that offers it as like a class. So, I mean, I had no idea what it was before taking the class, but like after, I just liked using like its application so much, and it's like web-based systems. And it really like that's what inspired me to try to pursue this as a major within college. So I think it's great that high schools offer like more so than it was in the past, like these unique opportunities to explore, different fields of like engineering and biology, just more of these like focused classes. It really makes a difference, definitely in our case too. Yeah, same at Beach. Like being able to take those computer science classes have been huge to help me figure out what I want. And that goes for any of the specific classes. Like if you know you want to do something, that really can help you get into college too. Because if it shows
Yeah.
that you have been interested in that in high school, and
Yeah.
then you want to major that in high school, in college, and then but also it goes for different. You can figure out what you don't like, which is very important too when you're going through that college route.
You girls want to do like rapid fire questions real quick, like favorite TV show and that kind of stuff. So
Okay.
I usually send an outline, but this has actually been one of the best interviews with no outline, so I like it. So, all right, we're gonna do that. You just one by one you can answer. All right, for favorite TV show.
Good. Criminal Minds.
Okay.
Probably New Girl.
Favorite movie.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Awesome. All right.
What's this hard? What do I watch the most? Maybe like I like comedies, like Pitch Perfect or something.
Okay. Favorite food.
Um, Gosh, this is hard. Tacos.
Tacos.
Like any fruit, I'll eat any. All of
Okay. What is your go-to song to get you pumped up before like a big game?
Everlong, Foo Fighters.
Yes.
Dreams and Nightmares.
Did Point Beach have a playlist for soccer?
Yeah, I was a music girl pretty much all 4 years. Yeah, I'd make those playlists. I'd always have the speaker. So if Adam ever got in trouble, he'd be like, "Sydney, this is on you." Any song. So I was always on that though.
I think I was at one game where the speaker was told to get turned off. I think during the years.
Yeah.
Do you want to stay? I mean, it's difficult asking this. Usually I ask, especially soccer, do you want to be involved with soccer when your careers are over, but you two enter into the military academies, that'll be different. So, all right, I got one soccer question. You girls are both defenders. Would you rather score the game-winning goal or make a big stop towards the end, clearing the ball off the line?
Big stop. Yeah,
Big stop.
we've
in the box.
Yeah, I've had a couple
on
of
the
those.
end line.
Yeah, I remember
little slide tackle.
I was 6-4 regional, and I remember
yeah.
This is sophomore year, and my good friend Sam Miles, she was watching, and then I think Jenna Eichenbaum she was such a good little dribbler through the box. She was coming in, and we always like to slide tackle. We like to get dirty, so I go down the slide tackle, and Sam was like, in my mind, it's over. They're gonna get PK. She's gonna score. And then I think I just cleared it out, and she was like, "Oh my god!" Like that. I think that's really because defending is so crucial. Everyone looks at the game, the scoring, but I think defense.
It's great when you hear it too, and when you know it's a clean tackle.
Oh yeah,
when you hear the ball, no doubts.
Yeah. That's why I like getting to so many games because when I do the all shore teams, first of all, I like to say, I've seen every player I put on my list, but you can't gauge defenders if you're not there. And, I try to at least get to, there's so many teams in the shore. It's hard to me to get to multiple games, but I try to get, especially, no offense, take out the key ports and them, but like a school like Point Beach and those schools, you try to get to at least twice because, somebody might have a bad day, the game I'm at, you never know. But you're right, the defenders don't get the accolades that they deserve. So
yeah, I think sometimes the bigger websites will just look at like the goals that defenders put up because that's all they can base it off of. There's no. I wish there was a slide tackle box on stats because I'd have like 1,000, but yeah, it's really nice for people to come and get out and show support for the defenders. I know Shelby would totally agree with that too.
But yes, just real quick, no soccer. Just talk the chemistry that you have to have with the goalie too. With the communication and Morgan's the older one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I get this. So Morgan, great career there. Mackenzie did a good job taking over for her. Just talk the chemistry that you have to have with the goalies.
Yeah. I remember when Morgan was our goalie for freshman sophomore year before the game, we'd always be like, Morgan, we like get hyped up, especially me and Morgan and other Morgan. And I remember she'd always she had her goalie gloves on, she'd like throw a couple punches in our face or hit us a couple times. She's like, come on, let's go. And that's just very important to be in tact with the goalie. And then we were friends with Mackenzie, so we'd always come together as a back line with Mackenzie being, we're like, okay, like let's go. Like, no goals, shut it down. And even if it didn't happen, also it's so crucial being back there and supporting her too with like if a goal does go in. You can't get all mad, Forwards might be getting mad at us, but us as a back line stay together and really be like, it's okay, we understand, it's all of our faults, it's no single
it takes 11 for them to score, so and I get it, you need to have a short memory, especially if you're a goalie. You can't let it linger or then it's going to get out of control. All right, I got one more question, then we'll what advice would you give your younger self?
I don't know. I just like to enjoy it, honestly. Especially these past 4 years playing soccer in high school. I mean, I'm not continuing my soccer career in college, so I really maybe took these past 4 years in high school a little for granted, especially how successful we were as a team. And soccer, it's the first sport of the season. It's one of the bigger teams we have. And we just became such great friends with all those girls.
Yeah, high school,
and, win or loss, it was always just such a fun time. So definitely enjoying those moments we had with such the great team we had.
Yeah, girls soccer in short conference is different. It's truly something special. The whole community with every team across the board. So definitely enjoying it because the state rings don't come often. So it was really awesome for those past 3 years. So definitely taking the moment more. Maybe play a little better defense on those state Group 1 final games, I would say. But other than that, yeah, definitely just enjoy the moment.
Actually, I came up with one more question, and I promise, what have your parents meant to you two, growing up and the impact they've made on your lives?
Our parents played such a big role in supporting us throughout everything. They didn't grow up as soccer players, nor were they in the military either. So just having them here supporting us through all of our sports, all 3 seasons throughout all 4 years, and also supporting our endeavors to these military academies, and those plans we have for our futures. They are just such great supporters. They are always here for us, whatever we need, within any sport or any issue we have.
Yeah, we're a family of 6, so we have 2 older brothers, Luke and then an older one, and we all played 3 sports in high school. So seeing them show up, especially when it got busy when we were all in high school, seeing them always be there for us, and no matter what, even those sports, they probably knew nothing about softball. I mean, softball was very new to us too. We only played in middle school, and for them to always show up and be there for you is crucial. And of course, learning about new things, like West Point's totally new for our family. I mean, Coast Guard, my brother, but our parents really just doing wherever they can to learn more about it and get involved and just be there for us. It truly means a lot.
All right. I think that's a good way to end the podcast. I appreciate both of you, taking time out. Now, when do you two have to report?
Monday,
yes.
All right, so you two you enjoy your weekend on the shore.
Yeah.
And I head down to Wildwood Saturday morning for the week, so I'm glad we were able to fit this in before you two left. This is something I wanted, especially when I saw you two post on Instagram that you both were going into the academies. I was like, wow, that's special. So
thank you.
And I talked to my editor too, and I was like, oh, if we didn't get this in, I was gonna come up with questions and email you both, kind of do a story. But I like doing a podcast better.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
So I wish you two luck, and hopefully I'll see you girls soon, maybe at a Point Beach game when you girls are home for a weekend.
Yeah, so, we gotta come back.
We'll be back for a soccer game eventually.
All right, excellent. All right, Morgan, Sydney, thank you for taking time out today, and like I said, good luck and try to enjoy your summer.
Thank you. Have a great summer.
Thank you so much.